my name is Erica, and this is my October wrap-up. Happy October to you. I don't know about you, but October is kind of one of my favorite months of the year. I like the Halloween time and all that stuff, the things. And the fact that people get so into decorations come October, like you get all the Halloween decorations, and then people go into Thanksgiving, and then all of a sudden Christmas is there, and yay. I'm just kind of hoping it doesn't go by way too fast. I hate when that happens. But anyway, so this is my wrap-up. I did not set a TBR like I did last month, like a real set one, although I did kind of run around in my room and my books and everything, and put Halloween stickers on the ones I wanted to read this month, because that's what I do. Because I was looking at books and I was like, oh, that would be a good one now. Because I have a couple that are more or less like suspense or kind of ghost story-like, or like murder mystery like things, and it just feels like it's the right time of year for that. I just really want to. Last year I spent most of my month of October watching like scary movies because I love scary movies and I own a lot of them. And this year I was like, I really want to read like creepy books, like weird books and stuff like that. And I have so many in my own house that I'm just trying to dig through the stuff I already have. Dig through the stuff that I already have, rather than like grabbing a bunch from the library. With that said, I already had a bunch from the library. If you watched my September wrap-up, I did mention that I had a whole bunch of library books to read that I was trying to like get through. There are like 3 right now that are on my tablet that I'm probably not going to get to anytime soon. I'm kind of just letting those ones return and I'll just get them again. But I am looking to read at least one for the tablet because Girl on a Train is supposed to be available again this month, and I'd like to read that during this month because I heard that was a pretty creepy read. Suspenseful stuff and woo. So yeah. So anyway, so the first book that I finished in October was Messenger by Lois Lowry. This is the 3rd book in the The Giver Quartet. Yeah. I started reading this in September. I read The Giver, and then I quickly like grabbed up Gathering Blue and read Gathering Blue, and I love The Giver. I hated Gathering Blue, and I really didn't like this one much more. I was told that the quartet's really great, and that at the end of it, when you read the 4th book, everything makes sense, everything's wonderful, and all this stuff. But really, at this point, I'm gonna read it eventually, but I'm holding off before I read Sun, which is the last one in this quartet, because I really just the Gathering Blue I didn't like at all, and this one I wasn't really fond of either. Though I think that Lois Lowry has a really interesting style to the way she writes. I feel like this book in particular was like simplistically wordy. That's the way I kept like thinking of it, meaning that like, you know, when you're in high school or even in college and you're trying to write a paper and you want to sound super smart, so you just take out your thesaurus and start changing words so that there's bigger words so it spaces out your paper, but it doesn't make any sense in like the context of what you're using. It just sounds like you took this really simple sentence but you added this big word to it. That's exactly how this book is. Like, there's so many points where she uses words that are just unnecessary. Like, it's like, why would you use that gigantic word in the middle of a book that's supposed to be like for middle grade reads anyway, other than to like increase their vocabulary. But it usually, like, when you read books like that they have more of like a wordiness to them, it's in the context of like a wordy paragraph or a really good description or thing, and these were like simple statements, and it was weird. I did not, oh my god, I liked that the main character in this one is Maddie, who is a character from Gathering Blue. So you actually have a carryover of a character, which in Gathering Blue you have nothing like that. So I really like that. I like the allusion to some of the other characters that are from The Giver, that I think are the people, and like, it's not like said, but you're pretty sure when you're reading it that that's who these people are. And there were some more characters from Gathering Blue which show up in this one, so that was good. There were people in here that were from the other book, so I like that. There's still no real whatever happened to people in The Giver, and The Giver ends pretty abruptly, so that's kind of why I want to read Sun, because I was told it all wraps up when you read Sun, so really hoping that that's the case. I did not at all like the ending of this book, I'll give you that. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but yeah, I really didn't, and I don't think it's spoiling because it's like 90% of the book. It's 90% of the book. Keep that in mind. This is like a 180-page book, if that, and 90% of this book takes place in forest. There's that too. It's so. It takes place in a place called Village, not the village, not a village, Village. And everybody has a name that doesn't have like any kind of descriptor with it, so it's just leader, seer, boy, whatever. Um, and then same deal. They go to forest, and forest is this murderous forest. Which is the thing that like I really like. At one point, I was kind of laughing at it being like silly. I'm going, really, like it's a murderous forest. And then I'm thinking to myself, going, well, is it any better than a maze that attacks you? Because really, Maze Runner, maze attacks you. But Maze Runner was, it's people doing it, whatever. Anyway, I don't even like Maze Runner. I don't even know why, but that's where my head went. Sorry if I just ruined your day there. I have an opinion. I don't. That's one of those books that I feel like is over. That's an example of a book that I think is like overly dramatic in the way that it's written. Like I actually I did a dramatic reading of the first chapter of that with my niece, just because of the amount of like drama in the first chapter of the series. I was just like, what is happening? What is this? Why are your eyes being pierced by the sun? Why can't it just be bright? And I'm a writer. I get being descriptive, but good God, sometimes, I don't know. But in this, I don't know. I felt like things that could have been descriptive weren't descriptive, and then really simplistic things that didn't need to be descriptive were descriptive. The allusion to like a romance was in here, but it was never really. Actually, two romances was in here, but they were never really expanded on, I guess, because it's a short book. I don't even know why we alluded to romance. I don't know. Just because maybe they didn't have it before. I have no idea. I really, I read the whole thing. I didn't like it. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. Same thing as Gathering Blue. And just because I like Maddie, I like his character, but I don't even like the character development in this. I just felt like it was kind of obvious, I guess, because he moved to a new place, so he became like a better person, which was kind of an obvious thing. You knew that was going to happen, but there was no other like further character development really. Same thing with the character in the last book, Kira, who's in Gathering Blue, who appears in this book as well. It's just like I don't know. I guess I just wanted more from it that I didn't get, and I didn't get enough answers. And it just is frustrating, and I'm just not feeling it. It's not my favorite. Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna hold off before I read Sun right now because I just don't have the interest, and we'll see. The next book I read in October was The Face on the Milk Carton by Carolyn B. Cooney. This one's a reread for me. I actually read it. Oh my god, I read it the first time. I want to say it was maybe 10, maybe 11. My cousins. When I was growing up, I have an older sister who's 12 years older than me. So, and I had a single mother who worked all the time. So, it was quite often that I would stay with my cousins or my aunts or whatever, just for like a Friday night or something, so that my mom could actually go out and hang out with friends or what have you. Because my sister also worked a full-time job when I was like around that age, like 11. So, actually, from when I was really little. So, anyway. Let's tell that story again. I'm gonna start my teeth. The next book I read this month was The Face on the Milk Carton by Carolyn B. Cooney. And this one is a reread for me, which is really uncommon, but reread, yay! So I originally read it way back. I think I was like 10, maybe 11. When I was a kid, I grew up with a sister who's 12 years older than me, so when I was younger, like she was working a full-time job, and my mom was also working a full-time gig. So I was the kind of kid that used to hang out with other family members, like on the weekends and stuff. Like specifically like Friday night, I think if I remember it, was like my mom's like going out night if I remember it. She liked to go out with some of her like coworkers, and they go to bingo or they go out to dinner, or what have you. And so instead of my sister having to watch me because my sister was also working, I would go hang out at my cousin's house and stuff like that. So one of my cousins, who's close-ish in age, in my family, it's really fun, age differences. In my family, I have like 30 cousins, no joke. But in my family, I am smack in the middle between the first set of babies that everybody had and the second set of babies. So my cousin's like right in the middle there. I'm the end, so I'm the baby of the first set of babies. And my cousin on the older side, she is 4, almost 5 years older than me. And my cousin on the younger side is, 10 years younger than me. So I think that's right. Maybe 9 years younger than me. Either way, there's a big age difference there. So my cousin my older cousin, she used to watch me every once in a while, and I'd basically just go hang out at her house and we'd watch movies or read books or whatever. And we were always like that. We had that in common. She's like a phenomenal artist, which I don't have that kind of capability. Although I did paint these things behind you, but that's because I went to a paint bar and they teach you how to do that. But yeah, I made those. But but yeah, drawing and stuff is not my thing. She can draw anything. But we both were very much readers and writers and that kind of thing. So she used to suggest books to me every once in a while, specifically because at that time when I was like 10, 11, 12, I was really into weird stories, suspense stories, like weird crime dramas or whatever. So, and she was reading like, not Dean Koontz, but at one point we did both read the same Dean Koontz book, but like stuff like that type of author, the kind of like weird suspense, also gory weird things might happen, but not quite in your Stephen King horror area, more in the suspense stuff. So she had this book called Face on the Milk Carton, like sitting on her table, and I read the back of it and was like, oh, that sounds interesting, and she told me I should borrow it, that I'd really like it, and I did. But I read it way back then, so I haven't read that book in at least 10 years. And 20 years, when I talk about at least 20 years. And it came up on like Book Outlet, I think, that it was on sale for like $1, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll get that for my niece. Like, I don't know, it was a good book. I liked it. I don't know how much she'd be into a kidnapping book, but hey. And when I looked at it, there were 5 books, and I'm going, what? I had no idea that Carolyn B. Cooney had made such an actual like series out of this, and one of them was just a release like a few years back or whatever. Like, it's not that old. So needless to say, I quickly went to my library and I borrowed Face on the Milk Carton, which is the first book, the second and the third book as well. And the first and the second book, which is the Face on the Milk Carton and Whatever Happened to Jeanne, I read when I was young. Like, I remember reading those ones. But I didn't remember hearing about the other ones. So, yeah, so anyway, Face on the Milk Carton, if you've never heard of it, is a book about a girl named Jeanne who, at lunch one day with her friends, back in the time we had milk cartons, this is important. You have to be from that time period. I understand that people don't understand this concept anymore, but there used to be, at lunch, you'd get a little milk carton, a carton of milk, and on the milk cartons they would have lost children. I remember this. Just like they used to have the big missing signs, and now they just have those little condensed ones. Sometimes at like Walmart, you'll see. But yeah, they used to have like huge missing things, just like America's Most Wanted used to be a show that people used to watch all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. But anyway, I grew up in that time period. I remember that. So anyway, she's at lunch with her friends. She grabs her friend's milk, even though she's lactose intolerant. Well, she has a lactose sensitivity because she's eating a peanut butter sandwich and she just really wants milk to go with it because milk and peanut butter sandwiches go together nicely. And when she goes to take a sip of the milk, she looks at the picture on the back of the missing child and sees herself. What? That's literally, I mean, this isn't even a spoiler. This is on the back of the book. This is literally the first chapter of the book, is them telling you this. So this is no spoiler here. There are like a ton of other things I can't really tell you because it would totally ruin the book. But it is a really good read. It's still a good read. I remember liking it when I was a kid, and I still like it now. It's still a good story. It still kind of has you going where you're like, what? There are things in it that I think are like a little like out there for it to even be part of the story, but it's supposed to be like a suspense book anyway, so it makes sense. There is a romance in it, which is actually really cute, and you really cheer them on, like that you really want them to be together. And that's between Jeannie and her next door neighbor. who've basically grown up together, which is really nice. There's a lot of twists and a lot of turns and a lot of things happen in this book that's, you know, under 300 pages. It's not a long book. They consider it now like YA, but when I was a kid, I remember it being considered actually like it was like not a middle grade, but it wasn't quite like a YA thing when I was a kid, because my cousin was reading it, so she was maybe like 16 or 17, and I read it then too. Well, I guess maybe YA is like the thing that it would be in now, or teen related. I think that's what they used to call it, was like a teen mystery novel or something. It's really it's a really interesting story. It's one that I definitely think you kind of get pulled into. Even rereading it, like I was like, oh, what happens now? I don't remember. Then reading it again. There was a TV movie made, God, years ago. When, oh my God, what's her name? Kelly something. So there's a TV movie that was made. The book came out in like the 90s, and I think the movie came out right in the same vein. It came out. Kelly Martin was the star of it. She starred as Jeanne, and she was huge then because of the show Life Goes On. I don't know if you remember that show, but it was a really good show. But yeah, that was like in the early 90s, if I remember correctly. But the book came out originally in the early 90s too, so I think it was like the book came out, did really well, and they made the movie like right after. The movie isn't great, to be completely honest. I actually watched a little bit of it the other day because I was reading part of the book, and there's a is it a total spoiler if I tell you that? Yeah, it is, so we won't tell you. There's a part in it that I didn't remember that being part of the plot line. Like, I was like, really? Is this I don't remember that being in the movie. And then I watched that part. I watched the movie long enough to see if that was part of it, and it totally was. And I was like, oh, I just apparently blocked that out, that was such a big part of this movie, out of this book anyway. So yeah, so it was super interesting, super fun. Yeah, so the movie, it just wasn't, I remember not being particularly happy with it. And I remember it starting with her hair, because in the book, Jamie is described as this girl with this really, like, big, bouncy, curled red hair. And in the movie, Kelly Martin, who's adorable, is wearing a wig, and it's long, straight, red hair, but it's not, like, super vibrant red hair, and it's not really curly, and it bothered me. There were a lot of things I remember, even in the 2 seconds I was watching the movie the other day, where I was like, oh my God, this stuff is not right. It just doesn't feel right. And yeah, if you do choose to watch the movie, make sure you've read both the first and second book first, because it will totally ruin the second book for you otherwise, because they take stuff from that and throw it in the movie too. But yeah, so it's basically just about a girl who finds out she's kidnapped after. Oh, there's that too. So totally if I explain this right. So she sees her face on the back of the milk carton, and it's for a kid that's been missing. So she's just, oh my God, am I kidnapped? And then it's a story of like how she kind of works out like what happened to her to be on the back of a milk carton. That somewhere else there's this kid that looks just like her, and it has to be her, because she not only like looks at the picture and goes, oh, that looks like me. She looks at the picture and remembers the dress that's being worn and the day that picture was taken and that kind of stuff. And then it just brings up all these memories and these things, and it really is just an interesting read. It's a good book. I like the book. I gave it a 4-star this time around. My reason behind that too is there are some parts of it where I was reading it and I was going, okay, this is strange. Like, just the way things were explained and the way things were written. I don't know, some of it. I don't know. But I didn't hate it, and I liked it. I mean, I didn't hate it anyway. I liked it the first time around I read it. I remember really liking it when I was a kid, and it definitely it was still a good book. I enjoyed it. Yeah, that's that one. So the next book I completed in October was Whatever Happened to Jeanne by Carolyn B. Cooney, which I don't have because I returned to the library. That is the second book in the Face on the Milk Carton series, or the Jane Johnson series. There are 5 books total in the series. The second one is basically a continuation. They call it a companion novel, and then I guess she decided to write more. But it's a continuation of Jeannie's story after she learns what she learns based on her face being on a milk carton. I can't really, without totally spoiling the story, I can't really tell you what happens in the second book. It's one of those kind of things like you need to know what happened in the first book to get to the second book. I will say that your cast of characters is all still there, and then you have this whole new cast of characters to kind of get used to. And it's a pretty decent read. It's good. It's fun, I guess. It's not fun. It's really, I mean, really, the whole story is kind of depressing. And I would say about halfway through the book, I started to kind of not like Janie at all, which is kind of sad, being that she's the main character, and I always kind of liked Janie. But in that book, I wasn't feeling her as much. It was a decent book. I think I gave that one 3 stars as well. I really just feel like I can't tell you anything about it without ruining what happens. The next book that I attempted to read and did not finish was actually the third book in the series. So I started out reading the series again because I'd already read the first 2 books when I was probably like 12. I think I might have been younger than that. And I really liked them. I remember really enjoying them. Reading them again, I still enjoyed them. They weren't like the best book I've ever read, but I've read a lot more books since then, so you know. But I still really enjoyed them, and I like that it's kind of a mystery story for a younger age thing, because I feel like though there are a lot of fantasy and stuff like that now, specifically like when those books came out, I remember reading those, and it was like if you wanted to read something that was considered a mystery, you had to read like Nancy Drew or go into like the teen horror realm of like R.L. Stine and that kind of stuff, and read those things. They didn't have a lot of that I remember, at least, that were more like mystery stories that were written with like a teenager or a young adult in mind. Not when I was growing up. Now, obviously, like there's a lot of different genres all like thrown into the young adult genre itself, where people actually do write with people like that in mind. It's kind of cool. But I will say the third one, I tried. Mind you, there's a lot of things happening in my personal life right now, which kind of have derailed my reading anyway. Just because there's just a lot of things going on, and sitting down with a book I didn't really have time to do. But I was trying to read it, and I borrowed it from my library. I even renewed it to read it longer. And it's literally like a 200-page book, and I got like 30 pages in. I could not get into it at all. I really just wasn't enjoying the story at all. I didn't like the way the characters were being portrayed. There's a character in the original book, and he's in the second book as well, called Reeve. He is the next door neighbor of Janie's. He's also her boyfriend. And they are like really close, really just kind of adorably cute at times, and sometimes they're like a little too mushy and annoying, but you know. But their relationship's really nice, and the basis of the relationship is kind of nice because they're next door neighbors who grew up together, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, look at her, she's grown up, because he's older than her. And they end up together and lovely, and it's cute, and that's like literally, like, I'm spoiling nothing. It's like 5 seconds into the book that you figure out the two of them are going to be together. Like, this is very predictable things. In the third book, the book is told, a lot of it from well, actually, the book is told from everybody's perspective, instead of it being like just Janie with a little bit of like things thrown in where somebody else might be talking. It's told from different perspectives constantly. So Reeve is one of the characters. Some of the characters that were in the second book are also like people that are narrators. And then Janie is as well, and her parents are, and it's just I didn't even get halfway through the book, and I was going, okay, I don't understand what we're doing here. Like, is there a reason why we're telling this from everyone's point of view now and not just hers and like a few people? And the narrative style changed a little, which actually for the better. I actually kind of like the way it was written a little better, except that it just kept flip-flopping to different people's perspectives. And the way the story was going based on like what was happening with Reeve and his character development, I was not liking at all. I really like his character. I think that he's a really cool character. He's that dude that everybody would have like some kind of crush on. I love it. I do not like him in that book at all. And I didn't want to read it anymore. I really like just had, I was reading it and I was like, you know what? I really don't feel like reading this at all. I really don't want to. So I put it down, and I actually brought it back to the library and returned it because whatever. I may choose to read that again, and if I do get through that book, and am interested to see what else happens in that series, I'll definitely continue on and read the other two. But at this point, I have no interest in reading the rest of them. I'm just going to stay with my good memories of the first two books and just say blah to the others. And as I previously said in this wrap up, I also have the same problem with the Giver Quartet in that I'm now 3 books in and I'm not liking it at all. Like I loved the first book and I did not like the second or the third book at all. So I haven't read the fourth one yet. I don't know when I'm going to read the fourth one. I suppose I should read it rather soon. Rather than reading it later, because I know like the story is more fresh in my head, but I don't know right now. I don't want to. I'd rather just read some of the books I have in my house. I also, bookish related, I actually watched the Giver movie because it came out a few years ago. I can't remember what year it came out, but I rented that, and I watched that the other day, and I thought that was actually a really solid movie. They actually did a really good job, being that I just read The Giver for the first time. There was a lot in there that actually was very very good descriptive wise for like how I kind of played it out in my head. I didn't like the way that the movie kind of I don't know, fast forwarded and did, I don't know, there was a whole romance in the Giver movie that isn't really, I mean, it's kind of in the book, but not the way it was in the movie at all. So, you know, I wasn't feeling that. But I have that issue anyway. I don't like when the liberty is taken that, oh my god, there must be a romance in this for this movie to be a hit, or same thing with the book, like when they just kind of throw it in there for no reason. I don't know. In The Giver, like there were, in the book, there's parts of it that you can tell, like, but he's a young boy and he has a crush on a girl that he, you know, whatever. That's cute. I like that. And in the movie, they kind of portrayed that, but then they just kind of like sped it along, and I don't know. I wasn't feeling that. But yeah, for the most part, I thought it was a really good movie. There was a lot of it that was really cool. There were some parts that definitely were taking liberties from the book, but I don't think it was in a way that was really disrespectful to the book either, you know, where it ruined it or anything, or even one was, I don't know. I still like the book better than the movie, though. I did like the movie a lot, though, and the kid that plays Jonas is adorable. But yeah. Well, there's another book-related movie I watched. Oh, Insurgent. Finally saw Insurgent. Yep. That was awesome. Really good. Really, 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 really good, actually. I love the Divergent movies. Definitely, I really have to read those books. I haven't read those yet. They're on my shelf. They're over there. I know I have Divergent. I think I might have Insurgent, too. I don't know if I have all 3. But I know that I have Divergent over there somewhere. And I'm just looking at my shelf because it's somewhere over there. I couldn't tell you where. I think it's in the back. But yeah, that I'm definitely going to read that book eventually. Same thing with Hunger Games. I'm definitely going to read that series eventually because I really, really like the movies. And I've heard from watching BookTube and such that, you know, the books are even better than the movies. So yeah, the book that I'm currently reading, I'm going to show you for the simple fact that I don't know. I only have a week left in October, and I have a couple days that I'm really kind of busy, but at the same time have time to myself, which I haven't had for a few weeks. So I may relish that and actually like sit back and read for a while. Today I was kind of had the time to do some of that, but was spending most of it kind of watching my TV because I miss my TV too, and my internet and movies and videos and emails, and you know, that's what happens when you lose the chance to have time to yourself. You realize how much stuff you get done in that time that you have with yourself. But again, there's been a lot of craziness happening in my personal life, and it's become a necessity for me to not really have a lot of me time and personal time. So I have a few days to have that, so I'm gonna take it. I'm going to take advantage of it. And I hopefully will make a dent in this book because I only read like 4 pages last night, and I was so tired that I just had to go to sleep. But I already like it. So this is the second book in the, every time I go to say it, Razorland trilogy. I never remember what it is. Outpost by Anne Agar. I think that's how you say it. This one is actually a lot thicker than the first one, I would like to just point out right now. But I already, interesting too, because if you recall when I read the first book, which was a few months back, I said my biggest like thing with it and why it took so long, it took me like 60 pages to get into the book, was that the way that it was written was just so dry because the narrator didn't have experiences really that allowed her to be a more flowery, not even flowery, it's not what it is, more relatable character. I have no idea how to even explain it. It was just so dry. It wasn't conversational at all. It wasn't that thing like, I love when you read a book and you feel like you're just talking to the person. Like you're sitting right across from that person. They could be a real person sitting in front of you and you're having a conversation and they're telling you a story. I love that kind of narrative. I always have. It's actually one of my favorite things about some more classic books is that they like kind of set your scene and then all of a sudden you're in the story. It's just, I don't know, stuff like that. It's fun. Anyway, this one I started to read and I was like, oh my god, so much easier to read. And I was like, is this because I'm already used to it? And then I'm going, no, because it's not as dry. But she's also had more experiences now, so that's fun. She being Deuces. And yeah, so far reading it, it's already really interesting and I'm feeling it. It's kind of fun, so I can't wait to get more into it. I can't wait to get more into it. This is definitely what I'll be reading for the rest of the month here. Again, I have a week left of October, and this is well, it's not too long. This is a 320 page book. So 320 pages in a few days. I should be able to do that, given that I have 3 days of more or less Erica gets to have Erica time days. So, and I feel like this is kind of perfect for, I picked out a bunch of books I wanted to read this month, but again, things happen, because I picked all of these like ones because I felt like reading creepy books and having some spooky time and whatever, and I feel like this kind of fits in there, being that it, though it is young adult related, I even think like somebody told me this was middle grade, but it feels more young adulty than it does middle grade. I'm not sure. Either way, though it's created for like a younger audience, it's I just got so far away from the camera, I'm sorry. So it's created for like a younger audience. It's got like some really heavy post-apocalyptic themes, and there's a lot of like gore and grossness and weird things. There's also, you know, your zombie character, and it's just generally like the first book was really creepy and weird, so I figured this would be a good start to my Halloween-y type stuff I wanted to read this month anyway. So I am going to try to read more of this before the end of October. Should I finish it, you will have right here, yay, it'll say, and I finished that, and blah, blah, blah. But so far I really like it, and I do intend to read this one, and then read the next one if my niece lets me steal that one for her too. I've had this one for a while, so yeah, I am trying to too. In November, I think I mentioned this in one of my other videos, although I have so many videos to post, it's insane. I have like 3 videos to actually edit and upload still, including last month's wrap up. It's so bad. I am off my booktube game. But anyway, I think I mentioned in one of my other ones that in November I was looking to kind of just read the books I had, and I really think I'm gonna read all the books that I borrowed from people, because I have books I borrowed from somebody in January. It's October. It's going to be November. I haven't finished her books yet. And though she doesn't seem to mind, I do. I would be so pissed if somebody had my book that long. I don't know why people let me borrow them that long. They do though. I don't know. I'm not like that. I'm like, you've had my book for like 3 weeks. Why haven't you read that yet? You know what I mean? Maybe even 2 months. I might give somebody 2 months for the book before I like really like trip out. I'm like, why do you still have my book? You're never borrowing things again. Yeah, people let me borrow things indefinitely. I guess it's because I'm nice to them. I don't know. I try not to ruin people's stuff. Anyway, so I have to go to work and I should stop shopping to my computer. So yeah, so as of right now, that is my October wrap up. I hope that your month went really well. I feel like it was a really horrible reading month for me. I didn't read very much. I'm not sure. How many books did I read? 3 or 4? That's not as many as I usually read at all. I wasn't in a reading slump per se. It just really was a lot of life happened, and I could not make time to sit and read. I couldn't make time to do much of anything. I've spent the last few weeks not really even being able to do my workouts or read or watch TV or do much of anything, other than try to sleep and work and take care of my family members that need taking care of. So yeah. So that was my month. I hope that your reading month went fantastic. I hope that you had a lot of spooky fun things for Halloween. What was your favorite read this month? Did you read anything like super creepy that I should get into? I really need to read Girl on Train. I keep hearing really good things about that, and I want to read it so bad. And I keep almost borrowing from the library and then forgetting. So it like sits on my tablet for a couple days and then it goes back. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna read it. I am. And I'm totally gonna finish Game of Thrones too. I'm waiting for it to be available again so I can read the last, like, I think I only have 200 pages left. And then I'll have the Game of Thrones finished. I really want to read that. Yeah. That's my month. That's what I read. It was really no, it wasn't a great reading month at all. I didn't really like any of the books I read. Not like I usually do. Usually I'm like, yes, this book was amazing, and I don't have any of those this month, and that's kind of a bummer. Maybe that's why I wasn't really into reading as much too. So yeah, November's gonna be a better month for reading. You watch, I'm gonna read a whole bunch of stuff, and it's gonna be awesome. Yeah, so if you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. If you have any questions or any suggestions for me or videos I should do, whatever, go ahead and leave those because I like me some comments. That's it. That's what I got. I'll see you in the next one. And I forgive me for the amount that you're gonna get at once in your feed if you do subscribe because I'm gonna be uploading like 3 videos at once. It seems. Yeah. So I will see you in the next one. Have a lovely, lovely day and happy reading to you.